Hello, my name is Matt Krieger. I work for Schneider Electric. I want to say thank you to Cochrane Supply for inviting Schneider Electric to be part of the Cochrane Smart Building Seminar Series. Also, thank you for taking time to take a look at the video. This presentation is going to focus on the Schneider Electric Viconic Technologies 8350 series room controllers. Schneider Electric is the parent company of Viconic Technologies. The 8350 series controllers are so much more than a thermostat for fan coil units or zone control. We refer to them as room controllers. For the next 30 minutes, we will explore what these controllers can do, how the 8350 series is a smart choice for lower cost installations when compared to traditional DVC controllers, why they're a great choice for smart buildings, why they have a great look on the wall, and finally the flexibility to meet non-standard applications. Essentially, the 8350 series of controllers are a DVC controller on the wall with a color touchscreen interface. So much more than a thermostat. '8350 series controllers are used to control fan coil units, basically any packaged units that have a fan, heating and cooling operations. 8350 series controllers can also be used for zone control in pressure-dependent applications. These controllers are capable of operating 2 or 4 pipe fan coil units. The 8350 can be configured to operate on-off, floating, or modulating valve actuators. They can also be configured to operate a 3-speed fan, low, medium, and high, or ECM motors that require a modulating output. On board, the controllers have temperature and humidity sensors, humidity for monitoring or for dehumidification. There is an option for an onboard occupancy sensor as well. The controller itself has 7 inputs in addition to the onboard sensors for hardwired sensors like supply temperature or remote space temperature, as well as the option for communicating to battery-powered wireless sensors for temperature, humidity, CO2, occupancy, as well as door and window switches. It has an output for supplemental heat, like duct or baseboard heat. For zone control applications, they would connect to duct heaters or baseboard heaters and zone dampers. Each controller has an onboard time clock and schedule. Low voltage and line voltage models are available. The 8350 series of room controllers are typically found on units that are installed in hospitality installations like hotel rooms, education scenarios like dorm rooms, patient rooms in healthcare, and office spaces in commercial applications. Basically anywhere fan coil units or zone control is required. 8350 series room controllers are configurable devices. They have an embedded sequence of operations that are tailored for fan coil unit and zone control applications. Configuring the device is done through the touchscreen interface, so there's no software required, there's no licensing fees, and there's no downloading required. It's ready to use out of the box. Accessing the configuration pages is done by pressing the top portion of the screen. This will take the user to 2 pages of setup that includes configuring the operations of the device, network settings if you're connected to a network, configuring the set points, configuring the display, setting the time and clock and schedule, as well as associating wireless sensors and commissioning operations. The 8350 series controllers can save you money when compared to traditional DVC installations. As I mentioned, there's no software or licensing required. One device is mounted on the wall as compared to installing a controller in the control enclosure and mounting a separate temperature sensing device on the wall, or multiple if you need humidity, CO2, and occupancy sensing. The configuration is done through the touchscreen interface, so engineering doesn't have to create a program that has to be downloaded to the controller. No computer is required. Configuration is simple and straightforward, so technicians or electricians of all skill levels can configure and install the room controller. In the end, saving time and skill adds up to a lower total installed cost. Here's a look at all the options that are available on the 8350 room controller out of the box. Notice the controller has 7 inputs and 9 outputs that are used based upon the way in which the installer configures the room controller. Inputs can be configured for operations like window and door switches, dirty filter, or general service notification. A changeover sensor, either a contact closure or resistive temperature sensor, can be connected for 2-pipe system or zone control applications. A remote temperature sensor or supply air sensor, along with some open universal inputs, are available. The 8350 can be configured to operate a 3-speed fan or an ECM motor. The valve actuators at the installation could be on-off, floating, or 0 to 10 volt modulating. Don't worry, the 8350 room controller will work with them all. There's also a contact closure for supplemental or auxiliary heat. Just to reiterate, one part number has all of this configuration flexibility. It's not like there's a part number for a 3-speed fan version and a different part number for an ECM motor. One part number can be configured for any of the above mix of inputs and outputs. The test outputs and service view screens are great ways to verify the installation is performed correctly. Service view provides values of the attached sensors, the outputs from the heating and cooling proportional integral loops, if there's any alarms like an open window, dirty filter, or general service alarm. Basically, it's a way to view what's going on inside the controller without the use of a computer or commissioning software. Test outputs will verify wiring and operation for valves, fan, and auxiliary heat, kind of like a handoff auto switch. Electricians and technicians can use this to verify correct wiring to the outputs has been performed. There's no need to fake out the controller by changing the set point to force heating or cooling operations to begin. After a 2-minute timeout or navigating to other 8350 screens, we'll set the unit back to proper outputs, so you don't have to worry about leaving any setting in override. Knowing that the unit is functioning correctly provides confidence that you won't have to revisit the unit or make wiring corrections. The VT8350 room controllers are a great choice for all the smart building construction and retrofitting going on these days. In addition to the onboard time clock and schedule, every room controller has BACnet MSTP communications. The devices are BACnet testing labs tested and listed. There's around 500 points or so in each controller that can be read or written to by virtually every BACnet supervisory system on the market. These 8350 series room controllers also have the flexibility to communicate via Modbus RTU. So if you run across an existing installation that's got a Modbus network, there's no need to run a new trunk for BACnet. Just toggle the communications from the controller to Modbus and add it to the network. ZigBee Pro Wireless is also a communication option. ZigBee is a wireless protocol that is a wireless self-healing mesh network. It would eliminate daisy chain hardwiring like a BACnet MSTP or Modbus network. It involves the use of a coordinator that creates a wireless personal area network, or PAN, that the controllers join and use to communicate. The coordinator can be a standalone device. It does have scheduling, trending, and alarming capabilities, or it can be connected via Ethernet cable to a supervisory device that communicates BACnet IP. You can have anywhere from 20 to 25 8350 controllers per coordinator. The communication bubbles can be anywhere from 50 feet in diameter to 250 feet in diameter, depending upon the construction of the facility. ZigBee installations are well suited to locations where the cost of wiring is expensive or where the facility may undergo renovation changes periodically. Like when they change the configuration, there's no need to reroute a communication bus. Additionally, they're great for retrofit situations where the owners would like to have a network, but the construction is not suited to fishing communication wire. Think of locations that are architecturally important, like museums or historical sites, locations that may have asbestos in the walls, or locations that cannot endure extensive downtime, like hotels that can't rent their rooms if there's work being done. The 8350 controllers can come with ZigBee communications embedded in the device or added later via communication card installation. So construction can be performed in steps if there's budgetary constraints. First, you add the room controllers, then at a later date, add the wireless communication card and coordinator. The 8350 series controllers also support the addition of a Wi-Fi communication card. This allows the room controller to connect to a Wi-Fi network router and be used as a standalone application or connected to building management systems. In a standalone application, the 8350 can be configured to notify or alert the appropriate parties via email of malfunction, like temperature, humidity, or CO2 values that are out of range, or if there's been a fan-proof fault or a dirty filter alarm. A BMS or supervisory device is not required for this. Essentially, letting you know of a problem so you can react or perform the necessary maintenance is what this allows for. In larger installations, Wi-Fi can be used to speak BACnet IP to a building management supervisory device. The benefits to this style of installation is that quite often there's an existing Wi-Fi router in place that can be used. Also, the communication between the room controllers and supervisory device is much faster than BACnet MSTP. So all of today's analysis and analytics programs can act and react in a more rapid manner. Similar to ZigBee, using Wi-Fi communications allow for a network installation in a building that is not suited to traditional daisy chain hardwired network installation. Energy savings opportunities are another aspect of the 8350 room controllers that make them a great choice for smart buildings. Traditional thermostats typically use on-off control strategy, as pictured on the right side of the screen. When the space temperature rises above or drops below set point, the heating or cooling comes on and does not turn off until reaching set point. The result is overshoot, where the space is overheated or overcooled, leading to wasted energy, not to mention uncomfortable occupants and more wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. The 8350 room controllers employ a proportional integral, or PI, control loop. This means that over time the loop will tune to the space requirements, keeping the space temperature closer to the set point, thus reducing overshoot. This translates into more comfortable occupants, higher efficiency, less energy usage, and less wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. Employing the use of additional sensors can also help to save energy. As we saw in previous slides, sensors can be hardwired, but the 8350 room controllers can support up to 10 additional wireless sensors. Temperature and humidity sensors for remote sensing, averaging, or high-low signal select. Remote door or window contacts, say for instance if the window is open, to disable the heating and cooling functions until the window is closed. Water leak detectors and occupancy sensors are also available. The sensors can have up to a 10-year battery life, and they use standard off-the-shelf batteries. Using a hardwired, either using a hardwired, an embedded, or remote wireless occupancy sensors, or using multiple sensors to measure from different locations has shown to reduce energy costs from 10 to 30%. These sensors are all passive infrared, or PIR sensors. They can detect motion as well as heat. The 8350 room controllers have 3 set points: unoccupied, standby, and occupied. When the controllers sense motion, they control to the occupied set point. If no motion is detected for a user-defined period of time, the room controllers will change from occupied set point to standby set point and begin another timer. If no motion is detected for that user-defined period of time, the room controllers will change from standby set points to unoccupied set points. If at any time motion is detected, the controller will revert to controlling to occupied set points once again. There's no need to condition a space to occupied set points when there's no occupancy. Standby allows for a drift from occupied set points so the equipment will not have to make up as large of a temperature delta once there are occupants in the space. Again, the standby and unoccupied timer periods are user-defined and adjustable from 1/2 hour to 24 hours. With all of the functionality and flexibility built into the 8350 series room controllers, we tend to forget that this controller is what the user sees in the space. These room controllers look great on the wall. There's 2 brands, the Schneider Electric version and the Viconics version. The Schneider Electric version, which begins with the letters SE8350, comes with a white base and white case and white fascia, or a silver case and silver fascia. Alternative fascias are available to fit in a multitude of installations where the aesthetics have to be perfect. There's versions of wood grain, glossy, and even aluminum. The Viconics version, which begins with the letters VT8350, only comes in a unified white fascia and case combination. With either model, multiple background colors can be selected. Again, background color can be selected from the touchscreen configuration pages, and it's even a backnet point that can be commanded from a supervisory system. The displays are configurable as well. The full display shows temperature and set point adjust. There's a heat symbol for heating mode, snowflake for cooling mode. Fan operation is displayed by the fan symbol with 3 segments surrounding it. 1 segment for low fan, 2 segments for medium fan, 3 segments for high fan. You can choose to display the time and date. You can choose to display which buttons appear on the bottom of the screen for operation, like the mode button for heat and cool, fan button for fan speed, degrees F, degrees C, toggle, language button, and help button. Many times buttons are removed to limit the control occupants have over the operation of the equipment. You can also choose to display outdoor air temperature, humidity, or CO2 level. The 8350 controller supports short and long backnet messages. The short messages, here displayed as room 1705, supports up to a 33-character message that can be anything from a welcome message which piece of equipment the room controller is connected to, like fan coil 237, for instance, or even an active value. Maybe you want to display the supply air temperature. This is also the area where alerts are displayed, like window open, dirty filter, or service alarm. The long backnet messages take over the entire screen. It's typically used for messages letting the occupant know of an event happening in the facility, like a meet and greet happy hour at a hospitality installation, or it could be a warning, like shelter in place message in educational or commercial installation. The 8350 room controller also supports loading a standby or screensaver image, which can be any bitmap image. You can choose to display this image when the screen has not been touched for 2.5 minutes. This image can be anything from a school mascot to display school pride, to an image of the building or surrounding city, to a solid image that helps the controller to blend in more successfully with the wall in which it is installed. These room controllers also support 20 or more different languages. In today's global economy, there's people from all over the planet vacationing and working throughout the U.S. Access to the configuration screens or to any of the buttons on the touchscreen are password protected, so access can be denied to those who have an inquisitive mind. Hopefully we've got a hardware design and interface that looks as great on the wall as the horsepower under the covers for today's smart buildings. The final aspect of these room controllers that I would like to touch on is for those of you that have installations that require more functionality than is what is built into the standard configuration and sequence of operations. Typically, the built-in operations of the 8350 controller will meet any fan coil or zone control type of installations, but there's always an installation or engineer who wants to do more. These controllers are capable of doing more because if you need to, they can be programmed to build upon the standard sequence or change the styles of inputs and outputs. As I mentioned earlier, these controllers have 7 inputs and 9 outputs that get used up as you configure the device. The 7 inputs are universal, meaning they can be temperature inputs, binary inputs, or active 0 to 10 volt DC inputs. Of the 9 outputs, 5 are binary, but 4 of them are universal. They can be on-off or a modulating 0 to 10 volt signal. With programming, you can change a binary input to a temperature input or a modulating input. You can change a binary output to a modulating one. You can make the heating output floating, but the cooling output on-off. You can add a stage of cooling, run the fan in low speed only when in heating mode. You can average multiple sensors to control a larger space. You could incorporate an input from a card reader in hospitality installations. There's a program to work with a Belimo 6-way valve or create a custom button on the display so when the user pushes it, special functions occur. We've got a library of over 2,000 programs that are modifications we've worked on over the last couple of years. So please ask your Cochrane representative if you're looking for functionality above and beyond what comes out of the box. The actual programming language for these controllers is called Lua. It's a free programming language, and you can visit lua.org to learn more. So if you want to write your own programs, that's completely up to you. The software tool to write and view the programs is just the text editor Notepad++, which is free on the internet. Finally, the software tool to connect to the room controller to download a program, upgrade or change firmware, load a custom standby image, or configure multiple controllers in the same way. That software tool is called the Uploader 8000 tool, and it's free on our website. All you need to purchase is a USB to micro USB cable, which is available at any retail electronics store. Here's just a quick look at the models that are available. Base models can come with a temperature sensor and humidity sensor, a temperature, humidity, and built-in occupancy sensor, a temperature, humidity sensor, built-in occupancy sensor, and built-in ZigBee communications. There's also add-on accessories for a CO2 sensing module, ZigBee wireless communications, or Wi-Fi communications. All installation, configuration, commissioning, documentation, and supporting collateral is available on our Schneider Electric or Viconics websites. Myself, along with the Cochrane staff, is ready to assist with any questions you may have about any Schneider or Viconics product. The 8350 series controllers are so much more than a thermostat. They're a smart choice for today's smart buildings. They offer a lower total installed cost, they look great on the wall, and they have the communications and operational flexibility to meet today's equipment and engineering requirements. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, well, thank you, Matt. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. And again, if you have any additional questions, you can contact your local Cochrane representative.